Today is Monday, August 29th. We'll tell you about the Justice Department's rationale for searching former President Trump's home, what Team Trump is saying about it, and why American intelligence agencies just opened another new investigation. Also, could it be a repeat from 2 years ago? Why officials in central Mississippi are warning residents to leave now. Plus, Moderna is suing Pfizer over COVID-19 vaccines. NASA is set to launch its most powerful rocket ever. And the award show surprises last night that will likely keep trending on social media today. Those stories and more to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. It's being called the most detailed description to date of the government records stored at former President Trump's Florida home. The federal government released the affidavit it used to justify the FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago. There were a lot of sensitive details blacked out, but there was still some information about the criminal investigation we could see. For example, the DOJ said out of the boxes Trump's team voluntarily handed over earlier this year, 184 documents had classified markings on them, but they were mixed in with things like newspapers, magazines, and other kinds of records. And officials believed at the time there were more still at Mar-a-Lago, even though there was nowhere at the Trump estate authorized to store classified material. Remember, once the raid was given the go-ahead earlier this month, FBI agents did take records from Trump's home, and some of them were marked top secret. When the latest court document came out, former President Trump defended himself once again, calling the raid, quote, one of the most egregious assaults on democracy in the history of our country. Trump has said many times that the search was all part of a politically motivated witch hunt meant to hurt his chances of getting reelected. Still, the investigation at the DOJ continues. And American intelligence agencies are also looking into whether documents at former President Trump's home might have put national security at risk. At least that's according to a letter the National Intelligence Director sent lawmakers last week. Basically, she says the review will look at the documents to see whether someone would be able to identify any kind of intelligence information from them if they got into the wrong hands. Like if someone would be able to figure out any American spy agency's sources or methods. So, to be continued. Get out now. That's the message from top officials in central Mississippi. In the state capital of Jackson, which also happens to be its biggest city, the Pearl River is expected to crest after days of heavy rain. The governor already declared a state of emergency over the weekend in anticipation of this. Numerous streets around Jackson are already flooded because of all the rain, and at least 100 homes are at risk if the river does peak. Unfortunately, flooding in Jackson is not anything new. Just 2 years ago, during the winter of 2020, hundreds of homes were flooded when the Pearl River reached one of its highest peaks ever. Local officials are warning that anyone affected during that flooding will likely be affected again, but they said they've learned from that disaster and that the flooding this time should hopefully not be as bad as it was 2 years ago. The federal government is making one of its biggest moves ever against so-called forever chemicals. Officially, they're called PFAs, and the Environmental Protection Agency decided to designate 2 of the most widely used ones as hazardous. They've been found in drinking water, makeup, furniture, cookware, and more. And by giving them a new label, the EPA clears the way for quicker cleanup and better reporting when PFAs are released into the water or soil. The issue is, once they're in your body, these forever chemicals, as they're called, can stay there for years. And they've been linked to many different health problems, like cancers, reproductive issues, developmental delays, and thyroid disease. Still, not everyone thinks the EPA's latest move is a good one. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is against it, along with more than a dozen trade groups that represent clothing manufacturers, oil companies, and more. They say the change would just slow down cleanups that are already voluntarily underway, and that it would be too costly. Now, the rest of us get a chance to weigh in on this. After 2 months set aside for public comment, then the EPA's change is expected to be finalized before the end of the year. NASA is set for liftoff. Today, the agency is set to launch its most powerful rocket ever into space. And this represents a big milestone for NASA. It's the debut of the space agency's program to send people back to the moon for the first time in 50 years. If all goes well with this first unmanned test mission, NASA plans to launch a historic pursuit to the moon with astronauts as soon as 2025. First things first, though, today's launch. The spacecraft is scheduled to take off this morning between 8:30 and 10:30 Eastern. Then the hope is it spends 42 days in space, traveling up to the moon, around it, and back to Earth. The whole time, people back on Earth can check in on things. There will be cameras on board with pictures, videos, and live streams. Amazon's Alexa technology will be there too, so you can ask your virtual assistant about the mission each day. Really, it's all about testing the spacecraft to make sure it's ready to go for the big mission in a few years. The last time NASA astronauts were on the moon, it was the Apollo program that wrapped up in the 1970s. This time, NASA is starting what it's calling the Artemis mission. The agency hopes it will be longer-lived, that Americans will be able to set up a major presence on the moon and a small space station in orbit. The landing plan for 2025 is also expected to bring the first woman and first person of color to the moon. All right, we have more news for you coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. If you're like me and you've been looking for a new beauty and skincare routine, I have your solution. Thrive Cosmetics has clean, high-performance products. They never have parabens, sulfates, or phthalates, so I feel confident putting these products on my skin every day. And here's another awesome thing about Thrive Cosmetics. Cause is in the name for a reason. Every purchase supports organizations that help communities thrive. Over the years, I've had to report on a lot of natural disasters, domestic abuse cases, and veterans who struggle to adjust after war. So I really appreciate that Thrive Cosmetics gives to organizations working on all of those issues and more. So far, I have their Brilliant Eye Brightener. It's a cream-to-powder highlighter stick. I love the Liquid Balm lip treatment that nourishes lips and gives them a great glossy look as well. And the best-selling Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara. I now use it every day. The name explains it all. Now is a great time to try Thrive Cosmetics for yourself. Right now, you can get 15% off your first order when you visit thrivecosmetics.com/newsworthy. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS, thrivecosmetics.com/newsworthy for 15% off your first order. The largest manufacturer of baby formula in the U.S. is once again producing its most popular brand. Abbott Laboratories started making Similac formula again, and it plans to start shipping to stores around the country in about 6 weeks. This is a big turnaround since Abbott's manufacturing plant in Michigan was shut down 6 months ago because of possible bacterial contamination, and later it had other problems like flooding. Well, since then, the plant has gone through a systems overhaul. It started making EleCare and other specialty formulas already, but not Similac, at least not until now. Of course, this should make a big difference in the formula shortage the U.S. has been dealing with for most of this year. Things have gotten better in recent weeks since the FDA relaxed import restrictions on some foreign-made baby formula, but that was never meant to be a permanent solution. So this new development likely comes as a relief to a lot of families. Moderna is accusing its main rival, Pfizer, of copying its technology to make its COVID-19 vaccine. Specifically, Moderna is suing Pfizer and Pfizer's German development partner, BioNTech, for patent infringement. Moderna alleges the companies copied its groundbreaking mRNA technology that it had been developing for years before the pandemic. A Pfizer spokesperson responded, saying the company still needs to review the full lawsuit, but was surprised to receive it because its vaccine is based on proprietary technology, and that Pfizer will vigorously defend against the allegations in the case. At the height of the pandemic, Moderna pledged not to enforce any of its COVID-19-related patents while the pandemic continued. But earlier this year, the company said it was updating that pledge, at least for big companies like Pfizer. The suit says Moderna does not want the Pfizer vaccine taken off the market or to stop future sales, but Moderna is seeking damages like lost profits since at least March of this year, when the company said it would start enforcing its COVID-related patent after all. Experts in patent law say this could be tens of millions of dollars, which really is just a small fraction of the billions both companies have made from COVID vaccines. Either way, this legal battle could go on for years. Starting today, some of the top names in tennis are coming together in New York for the U.S. Open. It's the final Grand Slam on the 2022 calendar, and that means this could be the last tournament ever for American superstar Serena Williams. The 23-time Grand Slam champion is in a position to do well, too. In the first round, she's paired up against a player from Montenegro, who's now ranked 80th. After this, Williams is, as she put it, transitioning away from pro tennis. On the men's side, the favorite to win it all is Russia's Daniil Medvedev, since the U.S. Open doesn't have the same rules banning Russian and Belarusian players as Wimbledon did. But two other popular men's tennis stars won't be there at all. Novak Djokovic is out because he's not vaccinated against COVID-19, and the U.S. has a rule that international travelers need to be. Also, Roger Federer is out since he's still recovering from knee surgery. The U.S. Open lasts for 2 weeks. You can watch the matches on ESPN and ESPN2. They will also stream on ESPN+. A lot of music fans are still talking about last night's MTV Video Music Awards, but not because of who won the signature moon person statues. Instead, social media is buzzing all about the surprises, one courtesy of pop star Taylor Swift. As she won the VMA's top prize for Video of the Year, Swift announced she has a new album coming out in October. She says it's called Midnights, reflecting 13 sleepless nights throughout her life. Also last night, actor Johnny Depp made a few surprise appearances as the MTV Moon Man throughout the show. Other big talkers include rapper Nicki Minaj accepting the Vanguard Award and performing some of her biggest hits. Plus, the Red Hot Chili Peppers accepted the Global Icon Award and performed several songs, too. Oh, and one more thing. Madonna became the only artist to receive a nomination in each of the VMA's 5 decades. This year, she earned her 69th nomination for her 14th studio album called Madam X. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a message from our sponsor. You all know I love my Rothy's shoes, and maybe you've heard of the Point and the Flat styles. They're the best sellers for good reason. In fact, People magazine named the Point the best flat for the first ever Style Awards of 2021. But did you know Rothy's also makes insanely comfortable sneakers, loafers, ankle boots, and more? They do. Their wide variety of styles are great for summer and fall. And I've never worn shoes that are so comfortable right out of the box, are machine washable, last me years, and are super cute and stylish all in one. Oh, and don't forget that everything Rothy's makes is better for the planet, too. They've repurposed millions of single-use plastic bottles into their signature thread that goes into every single one of their products. Step up your shoes and accessories this summer and get ready to be asked, are those Rothy's? I get it all the time. Plus, get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy. Now back to Money Monday. It seems high inflation has more Americans turning to dollar and discount stores. In their most recent quarterly reports, the 2 largest dollar store chains in the country posted higher sales and profits. And it's not just lower-income families relying on these more cost-effective stores. The Dollar Tree CEO says in the past year, most of the chain's new customers have had a household income of at least $80,000 a year. Dollar General CEO also said there's been a boom in higher-income shoppers. And that means more company growth. The Wall Street Journal reports Dollar General is now adding stores at the rate of 1 a day, and Dollar Tree isn't far behind either. The thing is, though, not everyone thinks this is all that great for the consumer. Some experts say the deals at discount stores can sometimes be deceiving. For example, shoppers might think they're paying less, but they're actually paying more money for a smaller amount of an item than they would at a larger store. Because of that, some American families are just adding more stops to their grocery runs. All right, thank you so much for listening today and joining us every day to get your news. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.